Okay. I think we can go ahead and get started. And since everything's being recorded, folks can always catch up. Um, Thanks everybody for coming to this session. And we're going to be talking about tools to go, different ways of setting up a mobile, portable repair and share models. Um, I'm Jason Naumann. I'm with Rockwood Common in Portland, Oregon. If you've been through the session, you might have seen me in a couple other places. We have a mobile tool library that you're going to hear about in a little bit. And then my co-host here is Dan.
Hey guys, yeah, I manage the Western North Carolina Repair Cafe here near Asheville, North Carolina, up in the mountains, and yeah, we're part of this network of repair cafes in North Carolina, kind of operating most Western counties. We cover probably routinely we'll cover three counties and then maybe up to six. I've got a little bit of a script I'm going to try to follow here so I don't like get too off track and run out of time. I tend to ramble on. So we started in 2018 and operating pretty, what I think fairly typical as a repair cafe. But our story about our mobile repair trailer really starts in our response to Hurricane Helene. This is a massive hurricane that led to a lot of flooding in Western Carolina. I'm sure you guys are all mostly aware. Just a little context here. A lot of flooding in our valleys and Buncombe County, where I come from, lost an estimated 40% of our trees. So almost half of our trees came down within a uh, 12-hour period. So a lot of neighborhoods here were without power for 3, 4 weeks. Asheville itself lost water for 5 or 6 weeks. So our response here, I kind of have to tell this part of the story in order to get to our trailer. But we fairly quickly met with our friends at the Asheville Tool Library through some pretty tight connections that we already have in place and started fixing chainsaws and gas generators. And uh, hurricane hit landfall, I think it was September 28th. This is throughout the month of October, we fixed 500, 600 some chainsaws and 50 generators. And go back one slide. You can kind of see that we're working out of the back of our trucks. Um, Out of these plastic bins. And I imagine this is how we did Repair Cafe for 6 years prior to this. Was these things they either lived at the shop out of the farm, and then when we lost that opportunity, we moved it to the back of my truck, and they go down into my basement and back out every time we do a Repair Cafe. Inventory management is a nightmare with this. You guys know that if you're already running repair cafes. Um, so one thing about the storm is we had sunny weather for 4 or 5 weeks afterwards. We're out here doing this. I didn't have to pack this back and forth. It lived in the back of my truck. Come November, we started getting rain again, and we had to kind of think about all of the extra effort that goes into hauling this around. Well, so our repair story really took off. In the month, especially towards the end of October, our story really started getting out. This is Kyle and Courtney who drove to Western North Carolina after they heard about the story and they heard about us through the news or through Instagram. And instead of going on their vacation in Nashville, Kyle took his work van and met us in Madison County, and we started fixing chainsaws. Kyle is a maintenance guy for cemeteries in Indiana, and he knows how to fix string trimmers better than anybody on the planet. And if you take a look at his van, he's got it outfitted as his mobile workshop. And this is where things really kind of kicked off for us. We saw his setup. He's got tools and supplies that we've never even heard of on his van, and he's got skills that we can't even comprehend, and he's fixing everything and really ramped up I mean, he's the reason why we got 500 chainsaws done. He was with us for about 3 days and turned this into his camper van slash small engine repair lab. Um, so after this wave of small engines in October, we did start seeing more requests for other items that were flooded. So getting away from the emergency generators and chainsaws. Sewing machine, we did get this working. It needed a massive cleaning, obviously, but that's about it. Needed an air compressor. That's not something we were carrying on our small engine repair outfit in the back of my truck. So following, November, December, things are settling a little bit. Everybody's getting their head back on straight. I had some folks encouraging me to put proposals together for funding a trailer, really inspired by what Kyle had. We wanted to, we saw the response that we were getting. We saw that repair can be mobilized in a disaster scenario. I mean, this was hitting people in ways that we did not expect. And we started thinking, how can we have our own mobile disaster response repair? And that was the original idea. And spent time all through December writing these grants and almost hit submit. And some local mutual aid groups were like, Dan, why are you wasting your time here? Like, just take this and go. And so we funded this through two different mutual aid organizations, just wrote us checks. And ultimately, I'll just be for outright with this. They wrote me a personal check, and this is my trailer with my registration. I pay the annual registration on it. I manage upkeep on the trailer itself. It helps with really keeping our nonprofit even more nimble. So the trailer is mine. All the supplies inside are WNC Repair Cafe. Um, yeah, go to the next slide. We partnered with a local organization they came to Western North Carolina and really set up camp called the Footprint Project. And this is a group, if anybody in the United States or really beyond is doing mobile repair or tool libraries of any kind, the Footprint Project might, I can't speak for them, but they might help you get set up with mobile off-grid power. So they did for us. We got I think that's 1,200 watts of solar on top. And they financed a 2,000-watt inverter charger for us. This charger is fantastic. It actually has a generator charging port. And then the rest of the solar balance the system stuff. The batteries are mine. They almost financed it, but the batteries I had to find myself. So that's something we're looking to improve. These are heavy lead acid batteries. They're just what I had, and they really weigh down the trailer. That's something I absolutely need to be considering. I pull this with my Toyota Tacoma, and it's like right there at weight capacity. So right now I've got something. I don't know if I want to be hauling this thing through the mountains doing disaster response. Um, but it has been fantastic for mobilizing our normal repair cafe. One quick slide. The next one is showing the Footprint project and some of their other mobile charging stations and all of these different arrangements that they do. What they really do, Footprint project, is they'll go out to a site that was just recently hit by natural disaster and very rapidly deploy these solar microgrids that can then power like communications equipment, can power vaccine refrigerators or various emergency supplies and cell phone chargers and all that kind of stuff. So no doubt what's inside this trailer, it's probably a lot of solar panels and the equipment that they need to run it. On top is really just their baseline, like this is how they power their construction site while they're building this. So they're all over the place. They've spent a lot of time in Jamaica. If you're in New Orleans, I know there's a strong repair culture in New Orleans. Footprint is has been there since Katrina, I believe.
Dan, I think we're seeing your trailer still. Was there another?
No, that's the Footprint
Oh,
trailer. This
that's a
one's my
footprint. Okay, great.
trailer.
Okay, it looks
Yep.
similar.
Yeah, it looks the same, right? So we're working with these shells. This trailer costs $4,000 new. And you can get them on the used market. I spent a lot of time scratching my head about what I want. That's a good segue here. I want these doors that swing open. I want to be able to go into a site that's like narrow and confined. And a lot of these have the ramp for driving lawnmowers or things into them. I didn't want to have to deal with that ramp. It's about 7.5 feet tall, so I can stand in there and work. It's only 6 feet wide, so I don't I can still go through narrow areas, and it's 12 feet long. So there's actually quite a bit of room in there. You can see I've got my lights turned on. I've got my power system set up. Um, I can do a real quick tour of this thing. Inside, I've got my supply bins here, and this is where we've really kind of gone through a lot of different ideas about what supplies do we need. We started with this disaster response. We had a lot of chainsaw stuff when we had it weighed down with chains and sharpening kits. And for the most part, in the last year that we've been running this, that stuff has come out. And now we're replacing it with very odd and specific appliance parts. And it's keeping our small engine stuff, but we're diversifying. Every time we do a repair cafe, we're just like, what do we, if there's something we don't have, it's able to fit into these bins. It's able to stay organized to the point where our volunteers like know how to access these tools without having to come track me down. It's been super helpful in that regard. I've still got my gas and my old gas. I can do small engine stuff. Yeah, go to the next slide. Oh, one thing, if you guys aren't hip to this, these bus tubs are kind of like where it's at for organizing individual parts and supplies. They're about $5 new as well, and super handy. Those go out on the tables when volunteers are working. They can just put parts into the bus tub.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
great.
Um, yeah. Let's see. Yeah, looking here on the right side, you can see my little workbench that I built up. Remember, we kind of built this with chainsaws in mind. That's my little chainsaw. It's a bench that's built in, like tall enough to stand comfortably and crank through chainsaws. And I got my vise for sharpening and all these things. Underneath that is where I keep my lead acid batteries, and I've got more storage. This whiteboard is really helpful. Because remember, I've got volunteers that are coming in and out of this trailer now for regular repair cafes. They can write on the whiteboard. They can say, we need this, or they can say, I don't know where this is. Can we organize this better? It's like a little two-way communication tool for us. It's been real helpful. You see, way up front, I've got my second workbench, which really just becomes like power tool supplies. Like I'm able to carry on this thing just way more tools than I could ever imagine before. I've got a 120 volt welder that I can run off of solar. Got my air compressor that's running entirely off of solar. I've got bench grinders and a little belt sander. We've got some really like some nice stuff going on. Way up front, you can see a bag of stuffed animals. And if you look even farther up there, you can see I've got a little jar with some okra pods in it. And this is like actually to me, this is kind of profound. We're starting to see our work is moving. It's still repair based, but we are really paying reverence to the community building part of what we're doing. And I don't like mean to overstate this, but the trailer is like a home for weird little things that you connect with your individual members and visitors that come. There's somebody that wanted to trade okra seed with me. I could just stick that on the trailer and I can forget about it until I see him next time. I don't have to think like, oh, is that okra seed in my car? It's just like it's always there. And that's actually proved to be like really pretty cool. I can even take home tools, and I know it's probably taboo to take home tools and work on them, but I can do that. I can take stuff to the junkyard if somebody needs it disposed of. I don't have to have that conversation with somebody like about how they can dispose of it. Stuffed animals. Yeah, we do for our sewing events. We keep stuffed animals. And a lot of times we'll go in there and pre-tear the stuffed animals so the kids can fix them. And then when they fix them, they can take them home. It's a brilliant way to connect with uh, impatient parents whose like kids are tugging at their shirt, and that's been a good one for us. If you go to the repaircafenc.org website, yeah, Cammy's saying it. We developed some lesson plans with cultural repair. It's posted there. Yeah, here you can see my solar setup. Again, you can see my cork board, and what I've done is I keep plastic baggies of individual parts that need to be looked at in more detail. Just another way I can organize individual things. And is there also space in your trailer for the menders? Well, the menders don't work in the trailer. We just store the supplies and we spread out in the parking lot. Um, But yeah, all the sewing supplies stay on the trailer. They just uh this thing gets packed up pretty tight before a normal repair cafe. Um, yeah, let's go next. Yeah, just to kind of like reiterate the idea that we can, because we have a home base for this stuff, um, we can still go around and we can reach these different communities. It's as much as I would love to have a brick and mortar location, it still is extremely helpful for us to go to other organizations that we can partner with and see them in and work within their volunteer networks. It just that's how we're building communities in multiple counties. We just did Weaverville for the first time last night. We had 74 repairs, 88% successful repair rate. And this is looking at Waynesville. This is the room I'm actually in right now. And this is last weekend where we're doing something similar. We're taking all of our tools and we're going to another room where we don't store tools or anything. And this is a portable air conditioner that uses a thermal electric generator, the little TEG unit. You heat one side and it cools on the other side. You see them in a lot of PCs for active PC cooling. This had a broken TEG unit, and hard to imagine being able to repair this under any other situation. But on our trailer, we have parts that we harvested out of a micro refrigerator that had a functioning TEG unit with a bad control unit. And because we have a place to put weird stuff, we were able to fix this, which in no universe will we ever be able to fix this under any other situation. And this was a real victory for us. If you look in the back, you can see Larry's holding up the bag of parts just to sort of prove that we could do it. Somebody asked about looking outside. For the most part, for most locations, we have an indoor space that's well lit for sewing and appliances and so, like all the things that you need, a well lit space. And then we're outside for sharpening and small engines and welding and soldering. That stuff is happening outside. So we do have canopy tents and fold out tables and things like that that we can bring out. But yeah, we've been able to mostly adapt. We do have some locations that are entirely parking lot spaces. And yeah, I mean, weather is still absolutely a challenge. Um, you mentioned mutual aid networks, but what other partners are you working with? We're all over the place. This is Haywood Community College here. Weaverville was the local community center that's sponsored by town government. Asheville Tool Library, everybody knows them. Those are our three main partners, and then Buncombe County Public Libraries. And with the community building aspect of what we really are focusing on, we're trying to prop up other organizations that are just getting started. There's a tool library in Yancey County that's getting started. There's one in Hendersonville County. We've got events scheduled for both of those where we're trying to pull in our network to help bolster what they're doing. Um, uh, Food hubs and community gardens have been really successful for us too. We have a strong connections with the agricultural community here. Um, with that, I'm
Awesome.
done, Jason. You want to take
Yeah,
over and
that sounds good. Yeah,
cool.
well, if anyone has any other questions for Dan, feel free to drop them in the chat and we'll circle back to them. So we run a tool library out of a box truck. It's 14 feet. Interestingly enough, also costs us $4,000. Um, and so yeah, I was with the Green Lens Tool Library here in Portland, Oregon for about 10 years. And Portland's library system has six tool libraries, but they all have pretty specific boundaries. So where I actually lived was not in the service area. So we wanted to get those resources out. We're trying to find a location for a while. Couldn't really find anything that was going to work. Through the Shareables Library of Things collab, I heard about mobile tool libraries as an option and thought, maybe that'll work. And so somebody offered us this truck for $4,000 and we said, why not? We were able to outfit it in only about 6 weeks and start our library up. We got quite a few donations from our friends up in Seattle who just had some overstock. The other tool libraries in Portland also had overstock. Our city helped us with a tool drive, and we were able to pull material in. And the biggest benefit for us of being mobile is that we can, like Dan said, pop up at all these different locations. That's an apartment complex you see up on the top. We're able to take it right to the apartment, right where people need to borrow things. A lot of times tools will go out and they'll come back the same day, which is an added benefit. It makes tool recovery a little bit easier. Um, in this situation, you can see we have our pop-up tent there. That's really our library. And then the interior space and to the left side is where we do our scavenger club, which is kind of a kids take apart activity. So we do a little bit of repair on site, but a lot of the repair ends up happening off site. We can go to all kinds of different community events and really build awareness of tool lending in the broader community. This is that share shed that runs over in the UK. I would encourage anyone who's interested to look them up. And again, Shareable has a collab that features them in the Circular Library Network and some other ways of doing things a little bit differently. But for us, we were able to really get started, and in a year and a half we proved that we were capable of doing this, that we knew how to do this, and managed to talk our county into giving us a lease on this building. So it's 2,600 square feet. 1,200 of that is a tool library space. We've got a 20-year lease, 5-year lease with 3 options to renew, so it works out 20 years. They're not going to charge us any rent because we've shown them through this mobile model that we can get things done. Um, you can see there's some renovation costs there on the side. It's about $30,000 worth of roof repair and work so that we can actually move into the library space. And then everything beyond that is really renovating a classroom area so we can do more repair work. We're also going to be able to do more education. We have a youth internship program we can run. Right now, those youth come and they hang out with us at the library every other week, teach them a little bit about, how to do sharpening, how to do small electronics repair, how to work with community and really be an asset to your neighbors. Um, so uh, just a little bit of an idea of how we actually fit all this stuff in here. This is a very early picture. We are much more condensed now. But you got to come up with some unique solutions here. These are just they have a very slight, about 12.5-degree angle so things don't fall off, but we can stack a lot of tools this way. Um, and then, shelving, we're using a lot of buckets and different systems like that. I don't really recommend the cork board, the pegboard system. It's a little tricky on a truck. Some things stay, hammers don't. But this picture is a little bit older. We really love those bus bins. So we actually were able
Mm.
to recycle these. Our airport upgraded to a new system and they had about 120 of these. So we went and picked those up, set them up. Everything is sorted by project type or category. But we were able to redistribute those to other repair places around repair and tool libraries within Portland and really get all those utilized. And then they're organized using our system, which they have sort of like a color-based system and a picture-based system, and then it links over to a QR code site so you can learn a little bit more about the thing and how to use it. So this was part of a other project that we had run to have a language-free navigation system because we do work with about 90 different languages in our community. We need to have, the space be a little bit more accessible in that way. Um, Obviously, biggest consideration is weather. Portland is crazy wet. Not like pouring rain, but constant rain, which isn't great for tools. Um, so we have adapted and put some, pop-up canopies, definitely a big part of it, extendable um, awnings. Uh, Thinking about street visibility, we really have to put in the extra work to be out there in the community and handing out flyers and taking our truck and doing things because people aren't going to drive by and see us because we're just not there. So that's definitely a factor. And then off-use storage. Our county was generous to give us a free parking space for our truck on one of their big lots. We parked right next to animal control and their street sweeper, really just kind of part of the team. Um, and then, I mean, the other big thing for us is like space consideration. So this is just the repair area for the Greenlands Tool Library at about 241 square feet. We've got about 120 square feet. So we really need to condense things down. Our library has to do reservations for some things like ladders, wheelbarrows, mowers, because we can't just keep them on the truck. If we did, we'd have to pull them off every time. It is a considerable amount of volunteer commitment, which is one of the main reasons we're moving a lot of our work into a building now that we can, because it's a big ask to pull everything out and put everything away for just a couple of hours a week, really. So, but yeah, I mean, the biggest takeaway I think I'm hoping people get out of this is that, you can start small, even if it means you start with a small number of tools, even if it means you start with a small volunteer pool. Getting the work going can really build a lot of support within the community. People will come, they will be happy to do things. The dirty secret that they don't tell you at tool libraries is that the first couple of months, you're not going to do a whole lot of tool lending, which means you have a lot of time to get your volunteers active and engaged with the boring work of entering tools and sharpening things and all of that sort of, learning those skills and having those conversations and building that community. Um, so
There's
yeah,
a
and with that, I'm going to kind of open it up to questions and let me.
there's a few questions in the chat, and one that I hope they didn't take my answer as snarky, but one was about asking, if local government could support you annually, $1,000 or maybe $5,000, how would you spend it? And I think that's a good question because my immediate reaction was a stationary to a library cost. Our insurance is over $1,000 a year. So, but yeah, how would y'all spend that money?
That's a really interesting comment. Sort of what Dan had said there. We do because we have just gotten some reliable funding through Metro through a reuse impact fund. We're going to get about $15,000 a year for the next 3 years to support our program and expansion. Um, but because it's through Metro, we have to insure our vehicle and everything else at up to $2 million of coverage. So that's $3,000 of that just gets eaten up right away. So $1,000, I think probably we would invest into getting those repair parts and trying to build up our volunteer pool. That's the biggest thing for our operations. It's good to have a nice pool of money for things like maintenance and gas and that sort of thing. But having that people power, uh, probably our highest priority. Dan, what would you do with $1,000 a month?
$1,000 a month, or a lump sum of $5,000. Yeah, I mean, I'm second to Jason. The volunteer management stuff is like still the hardest part. So anything to bring volunteers in and make it easier for them, and make it more likely that they're going to have successful repairs and an enjoyable time. Honestly, it would be funding for, like, we would start uh well, two things. If it was a little bit of money, it would be volunteer perks. It would be things like just better meals, things like that. A lot of our events are in the evenings, and it's like dinner time, and people are coming in late and leaving late. And I would try to make things more comfortable for our older volunteers. We do get a lot about just odd hours and things like that. But no, the thing that I'm most interested in, this is completely unrelated, but building, I mean, I love what's going on here with this like nationwide network or international network of repair, but I'd like to see something like that happen specifically to Western North Carolina, where we've got a lot of momentum. I imagine a lot of you guys are feeling this way. Like, you have local momentum where these community connections are being made. I'd like to see some sort of mini conference where it's all of the local stakeholders in the same place. and have local leaders talking to each other and really making community repair a broader, more concrete effort than guys like Jason and I running around in our trailers and just like having, I want to see something integrated more into county government, and I want to see the county like show up to these events. And I think it would take some sort of a community conference type thing. I'd like to do that. I'd like to sponsor
That's
a
definitely
local conference.
something that has come up more and more is like trying to create some network, that are
Right?
microcosm coming out. There are a
Yep.
bunch of
Yep.
other questions too in the chat. I'm not trying to take over your role, Jason. I'm just trying to like help you with all the visibility. Jack raised his hand though, and I just did also allow folks to come off of mute if they'd like to.
Yeah, Jack, go ahead.
We can't hear you, Jack.
No, doesn't look like you're muted, but maybe your mic's not.
Hmm.
No, I'll let you troubleshoot that for a second. Steve mentioned that we do have solar, and I forgot to mention that. We've got two solar panels on top. We've got one smaller battery. We keep it inside of, because we've got a lot of things that want to fall over, we keep it inside of a metal box that's attached to the side. Um, we have some water issues with that, so make sure you know what you're doing and getting that figured out before. But we got them donated their secondhand panels from a really great group of folks up near Seattle called Revolve Solar. They've helped out with the Northeast Seattle and Shoreline Tool Library as well. Um, Jack,
I don't think it's working for him either.
sorry.
Sorry, dude.
If you want to try and drop it in the chat, we can try and get to you. I just wanted to say again, with that contribution and how we use funds. Um, We do also have different skill building things in addition to the youth repair internship. We host little community workshops to build up skills, and it really is about, getting more buy-in from the community, getting more skills spread around so that more things like ours can happen. Once we have established our space, we intend to still have our mobile tool library available and active so that other places a little bit further out can borrow it, whether on a short-term or a long-term basis, and really get lending models going in their community. We are able to pop up at different things like community gardens, um, and all kinds of different resource fairs and show people what a tool library is rather than tell them. And it makes a big difference in terms of getting people on board to sharing and instead of just buying.
Yeah, there's also questions about like liability, and I know we can have whole hour-long conversations about that kind of stuff. I think this one was specifically about repair, and again, lots of conversations could be had. But do y'all want to just give examples of how you handle some of those questions, problems?
Sure, I think we follow a pretty standard approach that's with most tool libraries. If you're borrowing a thing, you're agreeing that you know how to use it and you're taking it home and you're using it off-site. We don't let people use things on site. It's not to say I've never operated a tool for someone because they needed to get a job done and didn't need to take it all the way home. But that's me as an individual, not us as an organization. Um, but yeah, we have a general liability policy. We also have an automobile liability policy.
Mm.
And then everything else is on waivers, and it's just a trust-based system that nobody's going to try and come after our completely non-existent nest egg.
Yeah, we do liability, general liability for our volunteers and for visitors. Don from Repair Cafe NC set that up for all repair cafes operating in NC in North Carolina under a umbrella plan. Um, and again, my trailer, it's personal liability for me. That
Yeah,
goes
I'm
on,
really
yeah, on my insurance.
I'm really impressed with the little repair station that you have set up in there, Dan. Do you share that with other fixers when they come in, or is that kind of Dan's space?
Our volunteers, yeah, absolutely, they can go in there and root around for what they need. I mean, that's a huge part. That frees me up a lot. When I'm the guy that's unloading the bins and I know where everything is, um, it means that I'm getting constantly pulled around at repair events, and they're like, "Dan, where's the chainsaw files?" It's like, "Oh, well, I'm the only one that knows, so let me go get it." And then I'm not fixing and I'm not interacting with the community like I should be. Um, so now we're working on a system, yeah, where it's organized enough that our volunteers, our regular volunteers, can go in there and find things that they need without grabbing my attention.
Yeah, that wayfinding and that navigation and that like mapping out your space, it's a
Hmm.
evolving process. It definitely takes time to get things to where they belong. But you got to keeping those updated and adapting them, especially with multiple users that are using the space. I know where it's the same thing. I know where everything is in my truck, but
Yep.
that's not very helpful to anyone else.
Yeah, having the space, the whiteboard really has, I mean, it's something so simple, but it's proven so helpful just to have a space to leave notes, that can things that can be addressed after the repair cafe. That's been good.
Hey
Dan,
Jason,
do
I'm
you
gonna
do
jump
you
in
think you
again.
would ever? Oh, Jack, I think we got you.
Oh, good. I'll jump in whenever you're ready for me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, well, once again, just thanks for the presentation. I'm out here in White Salmon, Washington, about an hour east of Portland at Gorge Makerspace. And I'm also here with Julie Tucker is also here too. She is the ED at the Gorge Rebuild It Center over in Hood River. We're thinking about starting a mobile repair trailer with a slightly different mission, and I just am interested in any advice you might have. So as opposed to the lending aspect, tool lending aspect, and the disaster relief aspect, we are really just trying to increase our outreach to users. We've done many repair cafes, but we just don't feel like we're really getting we're reaching everybody, all our users. We usually have about as many fixers as we have fixees. And so the idea is it's sort of like we love the idea of the bookmobile, go out in the community, go to farmers markets and the county fair and any kind of community event with our trailer and have it plastered with graphics. And then it can also live on site at the Rebuild It Center during the week. And I just wondered if you guys had any, insight, guiding vision, you know, comments that would help us as we're in the really early stages of this.
I I think I have something. Yeah, I will say that when we have partnered with broader community events where there's lots of vendors in the same space, we get almost nothing. So we've got volunteers that are sitting around on deck to like do repairs, but people aren't coming to the Henderson Apple Festival or whatever to have things fixed. They don't want to come and bring their repair through the parking lot and bring it to us. Folks that are bringing stuff to us to have fixed are like they're coming specifically for the repair. They're usually not coming for something else. When we're reaching new community partners, oftentimes it's like planned months in advance. And it's like, hey, we have something you want, you have something we want. Like, can we integrate our networks that are already in place? So that's worked really nice with food hubs. Food hubs where it's basically give free food giveaways and things like that, usually tied to local farms, uh, where folks can come to pick up their food, but then they can also have something fixed while they do that. That's actually worked fairly well. But that's something where the food hub, the local food hub, is putting this out to their network and saying, "Hey, we've got a group coming in to get something fixed." Um, and then so they're getting a chance to expand their network by having our exposure or our network come join. But yeah, really, it's just like a premeditated planned and advanced, very specific repair event. Again, anytime where we try to join like a broader festival type environment, it almost never works for us. So I would try to build long-term uh, commitments with folks that have a volunteer pool or a listserv of email addresses that are not already in your rotation. I hope I explained that well.
Yeah, you've opened I mean, it's really great to dig deeper into that question because we are trying to figure out how to connect people to our repair clinics because it seems like we can really only offer them at a frequency that it seems like it just doesn't get on their radar. You know, they're just like, oh, right, you do that once a season, but I forgot, or I didn't set aside the time, or that tool, like, ah, I don't care about it anymore. So we're trying to like crack that nut of how can we be more um, just more visible to them and more convenient to just dropping in.
Yeah, we mentioned earlier, I think that we have three locations that we go to routinely. And then we have some just random pop-up type events that we do, but having some sort of routine, if you don't make it this time, you can come back in 2 months. Uh, is helpful, but we're playing around with the pacing on that because in some locations, every 2 months might be a little too often. And maybe every 3 months is better for building up capacity. So, I mean, we're playing with those numbers all the time. Um, but certainly, yeah, building up, just a little bit of consistency, but not not redundancy. You don't need to be there too often. Uh, that's been our strategy, and it
Yeah.
seems to have helped. It's our sort of our three county strategy that we're doing now.
Yeah, I think annual events, especially if you can connect with specific affinity groups, are really great. We go to the African American Homeowners Association and we table there and connect with that group specifically. We also go to a Juneteenth event. Um, we have a Cinco de Mayo festival that we do every year. And then we do a couple of different like like specific repair events. We do what's called a Rockwood Repair and Ride, where we'll come out, we'll bring a fleet of bikes with us through one of our partners, and we let the kids ride around on bikes while we're fixing up bikes and replacing flat tires, showing people how to tighten their brakes and things like that. Um, there's definitely places in your community that would be happy to have you put something together like that. And remember, you don't need to think big or necessarily make it an annual commitment until it goes well the first or second time. Just say we're going to host this thing here and tell your some local folks, so maybe see if you can get some small businesses to throw a poster up and just see what happens.
Great, super helpful, guys. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Dan, Amanda had a question about what's your ideal terrain in emergency remote access? You want to clarify
What's
that,
our
Amanda?
ideal to
No, like you said, you wouldn't want to take the trailer up in the mountains, but I grew up over there, and hurricanes, come, the roads will be all jacked up from trees falling and blocked and things. So I can imagine like why that is the case. But what kind of
No, the
situation?
only reason why I don't want to bring that thing up the mountains is because it is too heavy for my truck.
I see. I gotcha.
And yeah, it would I don't know what it would do. Now I do bring it across the mountain into Haywood County. I'm the guy in the right lane that's like driving 15 miles under the speed limit. So no, I need to shed some weight. That's a consideration I wish I paid more attention to. I am going to swap those lead acid batteries out, and I think that's going to make a big difference. Um, but yeah, we're thinking about that kind of stuff all the time. Guys, the welder that we got, if y'all aren't adding welding to your repair cafes, I got the Forney 120 15 amp welder. I cannot, I mean, we fixed so many things and it's like my like 7-year-old can carry it for me. It's so sweet. But like those are the kind of considerations we're making when I'm shopping. When I went shopping for that air compressor, it was like, okay, which one of these is the lightest? So uh, yeah, that's a huge consideration for me. But that trailer, being 7.5 feet tall, it stands tall and it catches a lot of wind too. So yeah, I imagine that's challenging for a lot of folks who might want to do a mobile repair trailer like I do. It's just the weight considerations, and you do need a vehicle to tow it.
I think we're at time. If there's any other questions, I got nowhere to be, so I'm happy to stick around. Um,
Yeah, there's at least one more question about the pickup delivery, and I know you responded to it, Jason, um, about like, people dropping things off and whatnot. But um, I mean, this is a great example of how, static tool libraries and locations, bringing them and having a mobile aspect of it can be such a big access point for people. You can go to, um, you know, neighborhood block parties. You can go to work parties, right? So yeah, I mean, I think that that's huge in
yeah,
appeal.
there's just so many like garden parties or repair projects or things like that where it's really helpful to have just a whole library of tools on site because you never know what's going to come up. And like Dan said, if you can keep all of your repair parts with you, it really just makes your likelihood of success so much higher. And it makes harvesting reusable parts much more you see the outcomes directly because those are really getting plugged into other things and making things work. Um, but yeah, I guess for the purposes of the recording, yeah, we have a Dropbox location at a local food hall. So if people need to return things in advance, there's a QR code on there. So we ask them to scan it and send us a photo and let us know that it's there. It's pretty close to my house, so I can always ride over there and pick it up if it's something I really want back. If it's a screwdriver or a hammer, I might pick it up in a couple days. But and we're also working on getting a lending locker set up so we can kind of have some different places and planning to have one or two of those cabinets be drop-off locations so folks can kind of just get it unlocked and leave it in there so we can pick it up at convenience. It would be great to have vans or e-bikes or something where we could deliver things to people as they need them. But that's a lot of it's a lot of liability with people riding and driving things around. Going to people's houses is a lot of liability, and it's a
Mhm.
lot of volunteer time that really like needs to be paid staff time. So I don't know that we'll ever go in that direction, but it's been considered. Tool Dash. All right.
Sorry. Well, and all
Yeah.
right, I have
Thank-
so many more questions I can ask all the time, but uh prioritization then, right? So if like weight is a it's going to be an issue, right? Eventually, you can't have a whole, you know, tool library at your disposal. How do you prioritize? And obviously, if it's an emergency situation, there's an easy sort of hierarchy, but how do you
Yep.
prioritize and not just schlep every single thing around?
Man, it's just I like this is gonna uh it's just experience, I think, just consistency of knowing what people bring and what our volunteers are able to do. Yeah, and it just comes down to if something's been on the trailer for 2 years and we've never used it, then maybe it doesn't need to be tying up any more space. I mean, I just did like I said, I did a big purge of all the chainsaw stuff that we haven't used in a while. And a lot of the fluids we had like lots of 10W30 that we were carrying around, and I mean, obviously that's super heavy. We went from a 5 gallon gas tank to a 2.5 gallon tank, and it's yeah, I mean, we're able to just trim, but uh yeah, we get just eliminating some redundancy of tools that we did have. Um, uh, yeah, I don't know. It changes week to week, or not week to week, but month to month when we do repair cafes. Again, it gets back to that, like, I mean to say this again, but that whiteboard that's just like, hey, we needed this. Um, that generally sets the priority. If my volunteers are saying they need something, then we prioritize that. Yeah, the random bin of supplies, like when we're able to harvest parts. That's a new thing for us. I don't know where that's going to go. But yeah, I imagine that's going to fill up pretty quickly. Um,
Yeah, for sure.
but
Organizing and
yeah,
reorganizing and culling stock, it is a
yeah,
constant activity, and um, we're fortunate in the tool libraries that we have pretty good tracking of how much things are being used. So we can really look at that with our software and say, we don't need 15 circular saws on this truck. We can slim it down to about four. And then if
yeah,
demand starts to, kick up, then we make space for more. But I think that goes back to what I was talking about is that offsite storage. We've also farmed out a couple of sheds in the community from volunteers, and they're like, I don't use my shed. And we have a couple partnerships that are like, hey, you got some overhead barn space where we can just kind of keep overstock in exchange for, we'll give you the tools you need to have your little repair space for your chicken coop and really building those partnerships because we try to be more of a reuse organization than some of the other libraries in the area. We try to take in everything so we don't want it to go to waste. Um, and that's hard to do, impossible to do in a truck, frankly. So you gotta work with your friends and find spaces that you can make part of the collective.
But that's the cool part about Dan, has okra seeds and has stuffies and stuff, like there is a really good positive to that because you don't know what you're gonna need. And I think it's
yeah,
interesting to like think through the things we could never have a big enough tool library because there's different requests come in at different times. But yeah, streamlining it that way is great.
Yeah.
I love the idea of using other people's sheds. That's fantastic. I'm gonna bring that one home to the tool library, Asheville Tool Library. I think
There's
that would help a
also,
lot with some satellite locations.
well, like there's peer-to-peer lending platforms, right, that are
Yeah,
interested in cohabitating, and that could be a facilitation point as well with them. It looks like Tom is unmuted. If you wanted to say something, Tom Crowell.
Oh no, sorry.
Oh, no worries. Just
All
didn't
good.
want to ignore
Sorry,
you.
I came in very late, so catching
It's
a
all
little
good.
bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. We plug into the peer-to-peer system so that we can lend out chainsaws because there's some apprehension about having chainsaws in our lending library. So I say we don't lend chainsaws, but I lend chainsaws. So jump on this platform and you can borrow mine
nice.
until I know you, and then I don't need to quantify it through a system. But if this is the first time I'm meeting you, I want to have a little bit of chain of custody. Cool. All right. Well, I think we're about 5 minutes moving into the closing plenary. So thanks everybody for coming to this session and be sure to check out all the other great conversations that we had.
Thanks, y'all.
Good to see you, Dan.